Welcome to another episode of Football Scientific with me, Aaron Sauter, and my co-host, Timmy the Trash Talking Tiger Shark. Good job, Timmy, of introducing yourself. I'm a writer for the UFL News Hub. I cover the San Antonio Brahmas. I'm a writer for the CFL News Hub. I cover the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I also cover the Indoor Football League, the premier indoor league in our country. I cover the European League of Football. I am now covering the NAL, the National Arena League. Speaking of the NAL, they played a game last night. The Idaho Horsemen traveled to the Sioux City Bandits. I predicted the Bandits would win that game in a shootout. Instead, they won that game in a dominating fashion. The Idaho Horsemen just did not have the offense I expected them to have, and they could not put the ball in the end zone. They moved the ball. They run an empty set. They run crossing routes. Their only running game is to their quarterback. They moved the ball, but they could not put the ball in the end zone consistently. The Sioux City Bandits defense was too strong and shut down that offense. It was 46-14. Tonight, the Wheeling Miners travel to see the Carolina Cobras. I'm going to learn a lot about the Miners, I believe, in that game. I know the Carolina Cobras are probably one of the top teams in their conference, in their division. The Wheeling Miners are in the same division. They looked rough against the Colorado Spartans. If the Carolina Cobras are as good as I think they are, they'll probably run away with this game. But the Miners may show something. They didn't have a kicker last week. Traditionally, Wheeling indoor football, Wheeling, West Virginia, is strong. It's been strong in the past. It's been strong in our leagues. But this is a different level of football. They may take a minute to adapt to this level of football. Next, also being played tonight, the Colorado Spartans travel to the Omaha Beef. We'll learn a lot more about the Colorado Spartans in that game. They ran the ball. They could not pass the ball against the Wheeling Miners. Traditionally, the Colorado Spartans are not a very good team in the NAL. They struggle to get wins, but they look good against the Wheeling Miners. But it's hard to tell what that means. Are the Wheeling Miners a good team or not? Do they play good defense, or do the Colorado Spartans play bad offense? We're going to find out against the Beef, because the Beef are one of the top teams in the league. They have not lost an NAL game since coming to the league from the CIF, the Champions Indoor Football League, where they dominated. So we're going to find out tonight, where do the Beef stand? Are the Spartans any good? Are the Miners a solid team? Are the Carolina Cobras going to continue being dominant? We're going to find out in those games, okay? In the UFL, I have an update. In the UFL, the San Antonio Brahmas yesterday signed long snapper Cam Lyons. He had played at UNC Charlotte in the FBS. I didn't know much more about him. I couldn't find any more information, but I found some information today. I did some research. In 2023, he was an undrafted free agent with the New York Giants. Did some long snapping there, practice squad player. 2024, he spent time with Chicago Bears. He's not been a primetime player for them, okay? Previously, the San Antonio Brahmas had one of the best long snappers in the UFL, which was then the XFL, and that was Rex Sonohara. He did a great job in the XFL. He did a great job in the UFL last year, and he got a chance to move on to the Cleveland Browns. I was hoping he was going to come back, but he did not. They had signed Dalton Godfrey, who was supposed to be an excellent long snapper, came into training camp, did not perform to the level they need him to, so they had to cut him. Boom. And they brought in Cam Lyons. Hopefully he will be able to own the position. There's nothing worse in the UFL if you don't have a good snapper, because that hurts your punting game, and the Brahmas have one of the best punters in Brandon Wing. It hurts your field goal game, and sometimes you just got to get some points on a drive. You're not always going to score touchdowns. You're not always going to put points on the board 7 or 9 at a time based on how you go for your extra points. Field goals are important for close games. Last year, the UFL had several one-score games that came down to a field goal kicker. The UFL, traditionally, you have really good kickers. Jake Bates was there, moved on to Detroit Lions. They have good kickers. They need to make sure they have good snappers to help their kicker, destroying Donald De La Haye. He was yet to kick a full field goal in the UFL in his career. Hopefully he'll come out and look good doing that, but it's so hard to tell. Hopefully Cam Lyons will be successful for the Brahmas. In addition to UFL news about Cam Lyons being signed, I'm waiting for teams to make their cuts in training camp. So this has been a very quiet day today. They're having scrimmages. They're having scrimmages against other teams, joint practices. I saw some highlights of the Houston Roughnecks and the Arlington Renegades having a joint practice. Those are the preseason games for the UFL. They're not publicized. People go and maybe film it a little bit. That's how it gets put on X and Twitter, where you want to call X, okay? So that gives us a little insight to what's happening there, but mainly this week we expect cuts. This weekend, probably tomorrow, we expect the first round of cuts from these teams, and that's going to tell us a lot more about these teams going forward. In addition to that, the IFL is going to start playing games next week. I did a power ranks in the IFL teams a couple weeks ago, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to start a series of shorts called Football Scientific Laser Focus, where I look at 2 of those IFL teams this week. Starting today, I'm going to take a look at 2 of those teams today. There's 14 teams, 7 days in. We're going to be looking at those teams. They start playing next Friday, and hopefully my previews will give you some insight. You can gamble on those games through DraftKings. They do set lines. They have not set the lines yet. I don't condone gambling, but if you're into that, DraftKings is where you would do that for the IFL. Okay? So I'm waiting for UFL cuts. Been kind of a boring day there. The NFL has had a few stories pop out. First, the Kansas City Chiefs have re-signed wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster to a 1-year deal. Last year, he was with the Chiefs. He played in 14 games. He had 18 catches for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played 46% of the Chiefs' snaps on offense. The LA Chargers have signed offensive line Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton was originally drafted by the New York Jets as a right tackle. He was supposed to be a great player. He struggled at right tackle, struggled in space, struggled with pass setting for the Jets. Not surprising, the Jets are traditionally not good at developing players when they draft them. But he just signed a 2-year deal for $20 million with the LA Chargers. He's going to, last year he played with the Philadelphia Eagles, helped them win a Super Bowl. He had moved from right tackle where he struggled to offensive guard, where he played a lot better with help around him. He plays a lot better when he has a center and right tackle helping him out. He's planning to play guard for the Chargers, so that's a good move for him and the Chargers. That should help their running game. He's a very large man that blocks pretty well. He's just not good in space. But some players are not good in space. So he's going to move to guard for the Chargers. Another really perplexing story, the Atlanta Falcons they talked all offseason about Michael Penix Jr. being their guy, and they were going to cut or release or trade quarterback Kirk Cousins. They paid him a ton of money. Inexplicably, people keep paying Kirk Cousins tons of money. I'll explain why that's inexplicable in a moment, okay? They were going to release him, but instead, they've held on to him long enough to pay him a $10 million guaranteed bonus. That's going to raise him to roughly $100 million with his time with the Falcons. That's a year. $100 million for Kirk Cousins. Last year, he got paid $62.5 million by the Falcons, and now he gets a $10 million bonus, bringing to roughly, with the signing bonus and all that, roughly $100 million. That is the epitome of overpaying a player. They have, very similar to the Cleveland Browns, they skew the quarterback market because they overplay guys that don't need to be getting that kind of money. Why do I say that? Well, Kirk Cousins has played in the NFL quite a while for the Washington Redskins, then Commanders. He moved on to the Minnesota Vikings. He had a year with the Atlanta Falcons. But overall, his record in the NFL is 85 wins, 77 losses, and 2 draws. A little bit above 500, okay? In his career, he has a 97.4 quarterback rating. He has thrown 42,979 yards, 288 touchdowns, 126 interceptions. Good, solid, but not great. $100 million a year good? No. He's not that good. I would let him go. Release him. Pick up another guy to be your backup. He's going to be a backup, most likely, not Michael Penix Jr. You're going to pay him $100 million? While Michael Penix Jr. gets the rookie contract? I would dump that salary. There's a reason why the Falcons always seem to be stuck in the mud. They're always stuck in the mud because they hang on to guys who are not pulling their weight. Kirk Cousins is not pulling his weight. I would cut him. I would release him. He'd be gone. Okay. Last year, as a starter for them, he went 7-7. $100 million for 7-7. That's more than $1 million per win. That's also more than $1 million per loss. Okay. He threw for 3,508 yards, 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. He got benched and replaced by Michael Penix Jr., who's on a rookie contract and has the ability to be a dual threat in the NFL. I mean, Kirk Cousins is not a dual threat. He's a pocket passer, and he's inconsistent. And you see that in his stats, okay? Why are you paying him $100 million? Because you were negligent. You were negligent in releasing him. You were going to make a move with him. Trading him would have been great. Get a few picks back. Someone's going to trade for him. The Steelers don't have a quarterback. They got Mason Rudolph as a quarterback. You don't think the Steelers will trade for Kirk Cousins? Maybe not, because they're overpaying him. That's why you can't trade him, because you're overpaying him. No one knows. Everyone knows he's not worth that. No one thinks Kirk Cousins is worth $100 million. The Falcons don't even think he's worth $100 million. They're still paying him because they're dumb. They're dumb about making business decisions. They should have released him. Another really interesting and confusing story is the Aaron Rodgers situation at quarterback. I've been talking about how I believe he's leading on the Pittsburgh Steelers so he can get paid a lot of money. Adam Schefter mentioned in the week he thinks he'll get a 2-year contract for $90 million from the Steelers. Why has he not made a deal with the Steelers? Why has Russell Wilson not made a deal yet? Those guys are playing the market. They see Kirk Cousins has $100 million. They're probably both a little better than Kirk Cousins. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl. They both won multiple MVPs. Kirk Cousins hasn't done any of that. So they're both sitting there thinking, we can get paid, man. We can get paid, but we can't get paid if we take a low offer. So they're sitting there holding their cards, trying not to take a low offer, staying homeless, staying without a job, waiting to see what's going to happen. But here's some interesting stuff from Aaron Rodgers. First, there's been a bunch of rumors he's interested in the Minnesota Vikings. I have not heard interest from the Minnesota Vikings. They are the big winners in free agency this year, as long as their rookie quarterback, a rookie from last year, did not play at all. So I'm going to consider this his rookie year. He's on the rookie contract. J.J. McCarthy, who won a national championship with Michigan Wolverines. Not saying that's anything, but if he plays even as good as Sam Darnold, they're going to be a very good team. But they have J.J. McCarthy. But Aaron Rodgers wants to lead the Minnesota Vikings. Why? Because they have a good team. He needs to win a Super Bowl with them. They have a good team. He's won in the AFC North or NFC North before. So he thinks it's a good fit there. I don't know if they agree with him. Do they really want to pay him that much money? That's going to blow up their salary cap. They have a good thing going. They've made good business decisions, which is rare for the Minnesota Vikings. But if they sign Aaron Rodgers, it all goes out the window. I believe their team will be destroyed. I believe whoever has Rodgers next, your team will be destroyed. He was a negative toxic figure in Green Bay. That's why he's out. He was definitely a negative toxic figure in the New York Jets. He goes on the Pat McAfee show all the time and talks a bunch of trash about how great he is and how crappy everyone else is. He's a toxic person. If he goes to the Vikings, they're going to stink. If he goes to the Steelers, they're going to stink. Okay? I've heard maybe the Steelers are going to trade George Pickens because they pick up DK Metcalf. I didn't think those guys got along. So it sounds like they may trade George Pickens. I wouldn't do that. DK Metcalf is old. George Pickens is young. He's about to be out of his rookie contract, though, so they don't want to overpay him because he's young, but he hasn't been elite. So maybe they didn't get someone better than him. I don't know. But I think Aaron Rodgers there will blow that up. The Steelers need to be blown up, honestly. They've been mediocre because they refuse to have a bad season. When you think about the NFL is, if you have a bad season, you get a better draft pick. If you have several bad seasons, you get better draft picks. That's how the Bengals got Joe Burrow. Did they do it on purpose? I don't think they did. But some teams do it on purpose. I think Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers. That will blow itself up, which seems bad. They may fire Mike Tomlin, which seems bad for Mike Tomlin. They've only had 3 head coaches, and Mike Tomlin's one of them. He's been there forever. But I don't know if blowing that up is not a bad idea, and then rebuilding with young guys. And while the Steelers fans may not be happy, that'll make me really happy. I hate the Steelers. Go Bengals. I hate the Steelers. They're really annoying. Okay, so I would like to see them crying in their milk. Also, he's been considered the New York Giants. He played for the Jets last year. I'm not sure why the Giants would want him. Do they want to be blown up? I don't know. But their head coach and GM, this is probably the last year if they don't hit a winner. They got rid of Daniel Jones. They really don't have a quarterback. They don't really have much of an offense. I would just fire him now. If I was the head coach of the Giants, I'd say, fire me now. Let me go find a job. and then y'all can figure this mess out. It is a mess, a tragic mess. And they're in such a strong division. The Eagles are crazy good, Super Bowl champions. Washington Commanders are crazy good, about to be Super Bowl champions if they get a running back. Dallas Cowboys are solid. They're 8-8. They're like the Steelers. They're mediocre. They never really make the moves to get better. They just make the moves to stay mediocre. Jerry Jones, not a great GM/owner, not a very smart football guy. Thinks he's amazingly smart because they won in the 90s, but that was Jimmy Johnson that did that, not Jerry Jones. Old dude doesn't know what he's doing, but he thinks he's amazing. He's an oil money guy. That's how he got the team. He didn't make any money. He doesn't run any business. He just has a lot of money. He got lucky, and he can't get lucky with the Cowboys. So it's lame. They have a nice stadium, though. I went there a couple years ago to watch the Cincinnati Bearcats play Alabama, and that's a nice stadium. I wish they could have a winning team. Not because I like the Cowboys, but because that stadium deserves a winning team. Very nice, other than the roof falling off. Oh, it's happened a little bit last year, okay? Back to Aaron Rodgers. I get a little ranty sometimes. Back to Aaron Rodgers. Here's another theory I read yesterday in an article. Something in India article, some Indian sports article. I'm not sure what that was about, but I read a bunch of articles. It's good to read, kids. You want to read so you know how to write. And if you know how to write, then you communicate, and then you can be someone who's functional in society, okay? So make sure you read, kids. I read all the time. Here's a theory I saw. Aaron Rodgers will retire. He's messing around with signing people because he's going to retire. What's he going to do when he retires? He's going to become the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, even though he has no coaching experience. He's going to replace Kyle Shanahan, who's been consistently one of the better coaches in San Francisco. They're going to let Aaron Rodgers become the head coach with no coaching experience because he played quarterback, 5 years ago. That's a crazy idea. Who would do that? But I saw that in an India article, but I saw like 5 other articles this morning. People running with the story. Sometimes you see these people on social media, these writers, okay? I guess I'm included in that writer. They don't do any research. They just see a story, they jump in, and they say, this is pretty cool. This is going to happen. Maybe. We don't really know. Who knows what's going to happen? And they write a story about it, because catches on, and becomes a bunch of stories. They get a bunch of clicks. They get a bunch of likes. I'm not really worried about that. I just like to communicate. I like to communicate what I've learned about football. That's my motivation here on Football Scientific. It's my motivation at UFL News Hub, CFL News Hub. I'd like to play fantasy football. I'm in the UFL News Hub Writers Fantasy Football League, hoping to win it this year. Where Brahmas will rise. Brahmas will rise and win a championship, hopefully. If they ever play UFL football, this labor situation may blow up the season, and the Brahmas may never get a chance to be a Super Bowl UFL championship team. Frody and Slip. I wish one of my teams would win the Super Bowl. But they're not going to. But why would you make Aaron Rodgers the head coach of the 49ers? If I was a 49er, I would just stare at them and blink. Why did we fire Kyle Shanahan, who's won a bunch of games, other than when we had injuries? Because he likes Brock Purdy, who's won a bunch of games, even though we had injuries. He's lost the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers has only been in one Super Bowl as a player, and he won it. But then that's it. Hasn't been back since. Aaron Rodgers isn't a great quarterback, and he's not an elite quarterback anymore. 2 years, $90 million, waste of money. He's definitely not a good head coach. If he becomes the San Francisco 49ers head coach, that's weird. That's gonna, but go back for a second. The 49ers traditionally have made bad decisions. They were not a very good team in the 80s, okay? Early 80s, 70s. They started out the 80s not being very good, okay? They slowly started getting better. They hired Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh took them and made that team awesome into a dynasty in the 80s, okay? A dynasty. With Joe Montana, great. They moved on from George Seifert. George Seifert's still pretty good. Has Steve Young at quarterback. They win another Super Bowl. George Seifert eventually gets fired, and then it's a bunch of years of bad football. Bad football. They make horrible hires. Jim Tomasula, who's in the ELF now. Just not good football news. And then eventually they came back around to Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, the son of Mike Shanahan, who used to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos, won the Super Bowl West Coast offense, used to be the OC of Bill Walsh for San Francisco, helped win those Super Bowls, was a head coach for the Washington Commanders, Redskins at the time. Kyle Shanahan, coached with his dad with the Commanders, went on to the Falcons, stayed with the Cleveland Browns for a minute, went to the Falcons, lost Super Bowl, 28-3 lead blown. With Dan Quinn as the head coach, making poor decisions. Kyle Shanahan tends to wet the bed in the championship games and the Super Bowl. But he's a really good winner in the season. He and his GM have made a great team. Why are you going to fire him and hire Aaron Rodgers, who's never coached anything? And he barely gets along with him in the locker room. That would be crazy. Whoever wrote those stories is just throwing some stuff against the wall. I mentioned it too. Hey, why not? I mentioned it too. And throw it out there, okay? But we'll see what happens pretty soon. I'm planning to make a night vision once either Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson make a decision and go on to a team. Whatever's going to happen there, it's hard to say. There's a lot of weird stories, and it's hard to tell who's trying to leverage you and who is telling you the truth. But I'm telling you the truth. As far as I know, I would not lie to you. I am looking for sponsors. If you want me to say what you want me to say, I can read. I read my script. I can read a promo. Okay? I think we do a really good job. If you like the videos we're making, subscribe and like the video, but definitely check out the UFL News Hub articles and the CFL News Hub articles. There's a lot of good information there. There's a lot of good writers out there you've probably ever heard of. But it's all good stuff, and the league is fun. UFL's good, IFL's good. It's good football. CFL's amazingly fun if you like wide open football like I do. It's a good time. And those articles will help give you a foothold on what's happening in those leagues and help you feel better about it. I write on Substack as well. It's really not been taking off. I may stop writing on Substack. The YouTube channel's been better than Substack. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to start those laser focus videos on the IFL teams probably starting today here in a few minutes. So look out for that and we'll see how it goes. If at any point in time you want to give me some feedback on comments, you want to hit me up on my DM on Twitter, let me know if I need to touch on a topic that I'm not hitting on. Someone said, what does this mean about LeBron's legacy? Nothing. LeBron plays in the NBA. I used to pay attention to the NBA like in the 80s and 90s. The NBA, what's that? It's a National Basketball Association. But since it's become a jump shot league, I really haven't paid a lot of attention to it. LeBron James, I guess he's good. He's not bad. What's his legacy? He's probably one of the third best players in the league ever. But that's his legacy. He's not going to change it this year. Okay, he plays for the Lakers, who happen to be a good brand, but not a great team. That's where it's at. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, now he has Nikola Jokic. He may make some moves. He may make a run to a championship to help finish his career off. That'd be good. I mean, you hear about ESPN talks about LeBron James all the time. I'm not going to talk about LeBron James in detail. The NBA is covered heavily by the ESPN. UFL, CFL, IFL are not covered at all by the ESPN. I mean, even though the ESPN owns a portion of the UFL. That's crazy. They don't talk about it, but they don't. So that's why I jump into those things. Remember, if you want to sponsor me, do it. If you want to see better special effects, let me know. There will be a little bit of special effects on those laser focused videos. So, hope you have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the day of football. Check out the NL games if you're on YouTube. If not, I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully covering the training camp cuts from the UFL if they get released. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll see what happens. Have a great day. Have a great day, everybody. Drop the Timmy. Boom. It's over, Rover.